The formation of MEChA. The adoption of the name Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlan signaled a new level of political consciousness among student activists. It was the final stage in the transformation of what had been loosely organized, local student groups, into a single structure and a unified student movement. Adamant rejection of the label Mexican American meant rejection of the assimilation and accommodationist melting pot ideology that had guided earlier generations of activists. Chicanismo involves a crucial distinction in a political consciousness between a Mexican American, Hispanic, and a Chicana/O mentality. El Plan de Santa Barbara speaks to such issues of identity politics by asserting, the Mexican American, Hispanic, is a person who lacks respect for his/her cultural and ethnic heritage. Unsure of her/himself, she/he seeks assimilation, as a way out of her/his degraded social status. Consequently, she/he remains politically ineffective. In contrast, Chicanismo reflects self-respect and pride on one's ethnic and cultural background. Thus, the Chicana/O acts with confidence and with a range of alternatives in the political world. She/he is capable of developing an effective ideology through action. El Plan de Santa Barbara. MEChA played an important role in the creation and implementation of Chicana/O studies and support services programs on campus. Chicana/O studies programs would be a relevant alternative to established curricula. Most important, the Chicana/O studies program would be the foundation of MECha's political power base. Today many Chicana/O studies programs in California universities would have difficulty operating if it were not for the enthusiasm and dedication of MEChistas to Chicana/O studies. On campuses across Aztlan, MEChA and MEChistas are often the only groups on campus RADA and non-RADA alike that seek to open the doors of higher education para nuestras comunidades and strive for a society free of imperialism, racism, sexism, and homophobia. An inspirational statement in El Plan Santa Barbara that speaks to this notes, MEChA must bring to the mind of every young Chicana and Chicano that the liberation of her/his people from prejudice and oppression is in her/his hands, and this responsibility is greater than personal achievement and more meaningful than degrees, especially if they are earned at the expense of her/his identity and cultural integrity. MEChA, then, is more than a name. It is a spirit of unity, of sisterhood and brotherhood, and a resolve to undertake a struggle for liberation in society, where justice is but a word. MEChA is a means to an end. El Plan de Santa Barbara. The philosophy of Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlan. Like many organizations, MEChA has had the unfortunate experience of being manipulated and/or infiltrated by opportunistic groups throughout its history. These outside organizations oftentimes did not share in MECha's philosophies, and for the most part these groups did not possess the legitimacy in the RADA community, as did MECha. The credibility that MECha had was what these opportunistic organizations sought to capture in order to make a name for their organizations and to tap into MECha's campus resources. In particular cases of infiltration, MEChA chapters and the entire MEChA structure has been nearly torn apart because of the turmoil and deceit resulting from counter raiding and party building by outside organizations. A historical struggle, which is commonly regarded in MECha's history, is the infiltration by the League of Revolutionary Struggle (LRS), commonly referred to in MEChA law as LIGA, in the mid-1980s. After tremendous conflict, there was an attempt to purge LIGA from California MEChA, as statewide and nationally. Many MEChistas believed that LIGA was attempting to subvert MEChA from its Chicano nationalist position and make it subservient to the LRS and what was described as Marxist internationalism. This was a very turbulent episode in MECha's history, especially in California. The power struggle between MEChistas throughout the states had divided many chapters on ideology and over the understanding of what were MEChistas' common goals and objectives. Ultimately, LIGA and its membership were expelled from MECha. This was accomplished in great part by the development of what is now called the philosophy of MEChA. The philosophy papers were created so that MEChA could define what it was that MEChA intended to do as an organization aside from the struggle for the access of higher education for Chicanas and Chicanos. It was through this process of self-definition that MEChA was able to discern what was in the best interest of MECha. Most importantly, the philosophy papers established a set of principles, structure that would allow MEChA chapters from across Aztlan to have a common understanding of what MEChA stood for, and what should be striving towards in our quest for the liberation of Aztlan. Originally, the philosophy papers were referred to as four different documents collectively called MEChA's position papers on philosophy, structure, goals and objectives, and relationship to outside organizations. The process to adopt the position papers began at the Fall Summit of 1986 at Casa Ramona Community Center in San Bernardino, California. The process agreed upon was that all chapters would take the first draft of the position papers back to their campuses and MEChA would return to them in one school year to engage in the process of ratifying the documents. The process was prolonged, but the documents were officially adopted in pairs at the 1989 summits at Oak Riverside and later that summer at Mount Jacinto Community College. The position papers had undergone two major changes since 1989. The first revisions occurred in 1992 at a summit hosted by Sue Fullerton. A majority of the revisions was the removal of programs that had not successfully served their intended purposes. The second major revisions were approved at the MEChA National Conference of 1999 at Phoenix Community College. This later round of revisions in the late 1990s was the result of a year and a half of work spearheaded by the Northern Regional Task Force in RTF. The Northern Regional had established a task force to look into issues of MEChA philosophy after a round of dialogue that arose at the California Fall Statewide Conference in 1996 at SU, Northridge. This discussion was motivated by the concern that MEChA was not accurately assessing the problems of the Chicana/O community in terms of the current conditions de nuestros barrios and of the contemporary understanding of what constitutes Chicanismo. After nearly 2 years of collecting input from MEChAs throughout the nation and state, the NRTF initiated a revision process at the statewide and national level in 1999. The NRTF emphasized indigenismo, la major, raza of non-Mexican descent LGBT mixtus, and Chicanismo, as well as to tie all of the position papers together as one document, in their recommendations. The NRTF presented their final proposal of revisions on the position papers at the California Spring Statewide Conference held at San Francisco State University. After long debate, California statewide endorsed these changes and moved to forward the proposals to the National MEChA Conference in Phoenix, Arizona. After 2 days of discussions and hard work, National MEChA adopted the revisions to the position papers, now called the Philosophy of Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlan, on March 21, 1999. The MEChA external structure. Since the conception of MEChA at the Chicano Coordinating Council on Higher Education at Santa Barbara in 1969, MEChA has become a national organization. Now MEChA chapters are organizing on campuses throughout Aztlan. At the national level, MEChA is organized into regional bodies much like the great confederations of our ancestors in the valley of Adamant.